Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we're diving deep into growth hacking,
Oh, yeah.
and we're focusing on the insights and methods from a pretty influential guy, Theo Mulos.
hmm
He's the chief architect over at growthhackers.com.
Yeah, and this is going to be a little different.
Yeah, this isn't like, pulling from random articles online.
Yeah.
This is from his courses,
Directly from the source.
directly from his courses, his training material from Growth Hacking University, even some guest lectures that he's done at NYU.
So this is not ChatGPT material.
Right.
We got everything by speaking out the training material Theo is using in his growth hacking courses and teachings.
Yeah, so you, the learner, you're getting like a really solid understanding of how he thinks about this.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like just kind of like skimming the surface level. We're really getting into it, like the foundational kind of like core ideas
Yeah.
of his perspective on growth.
Okay, so let's dive into it. One of the first things that he points out that I think is a really huge problem
Yeah.
is this reliance on multiple specialized agencies.
Yeah.
So you've got, one for your website, one managing social media, you've got a performance marketing team, another one for SEO,
Yeah.
influencer outreach, like the list goes on and on and on.
You got all these specialists.
Yeah. And he's like, look, marketing efforts can't operate in silos.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't have these totally disconnected efforts and expect growth.
Exactly.
It has to be a unified strategy that dictates what channels you're going to use. Everything has to be kind of working in concert together.
And it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, for example, he gives the example of paid ads.
Yeah.
So for some keywords, like some products, the cost of acquisition can get really, really high.
Especially if it's a very competitive space.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe in that instance, going more organic, like SEO, might actually be a better solution.
Yeah, or maybe the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's a product where paid advertising really makes a lot more sense, or maybe influencer marketing or something like that. Right. It's just that the strategy comes first. Exactly. And that should dictate what channels you use, not the other way around.
Exactly. Instead of like the agency just trying to, get more and more budget.
Right. So the learner, like, think about your own experience. Have you ever experienced that kind of like fragmented approach to marketing?
Yeah.
I think we probably all have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on to the next really critical thing, and this is like
Oh, yeah.
a super important one. It's attribution.
Oh, yeah.
Understanding what activities are actually driving sales.
Yeah.
So he's pointing out the challenge of really knowing which channel contributes to a conversion.
Right.
So like, for example, if you have a single sale that involves, let's say, 7 different marketing touch points, and each one of those touch points is costing you money, like a commission.
Right. Or some kind of a cost,
Yeah.
that's eating into your profit margins.
And that's if they even convert at all.
Right.
It's like...
So he poses this really interesting question, should businesses be like strategically segmenting product offerings
Oh.
to try to reduce the number of touch points,
Oh, that's interesting.
to minimize the number of customer touch points
Right.
before a purchase?
So to kind of like streamline it all.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought.
It's all about efficiency.
Yeah.
Reducing those commissions, those payouts, and ultimately boosting your profit.
It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that kind of leads into this idea of data visualization, which is super important. He's like, look,
Yeah.
businesses need a single dashboard.
Oh, I like this.
You need marketing director, business owner, whoever. They need to be able to see real-time performance,
Yeah.
things like customer acquisition cost,
Mhm.
ROI, and this should be across all your channels.
Across all of them.
Paid, direct, email, organic. It doesn't matter. It should all be in one place.
And I think that's a huge challenge for a lot of companies.
Yeah.
Because, like you're looking at Google Analytics, you're looking at Facebook, you're looking at all these different platforms. It's
Yeah.
just, it's all over the place.
And you're trying to piece it all together.
It's like a puzzle, you're missing some pieces.
So the learner, think about the data that you're tracking.
Yeah.
Are you getting a clear picture of your business performance?
Right.
Or is it more like you're trying to put together that puzzle with like half the pieces missing?
Right.
Okay, so this next thing that he brings up I thought was it was pretty insightful. He's talking about the product.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, look, the product should be the very core
Yeah.
of your growth strategy.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And he brings up this this common mistake that he sees a lot
Okay.
when users aren't upgrading to a paid version of an app.
Oh, I see.
Businesses tend to like immediately point the finger at the app.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the app's not good
Yeah.
or the UX is bad or whatever. But he's like, no, no, no.
Yeah, the problem could be way before that.
Yeah, it might be that your advertising message is off
Oh, I see.
and you're attracting the wrong type of user.
Yes, you're getting the wrong people in the door in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he gives this really insightful analogy. He compares it to heart pain
Oh.
that radiates to your back.
Oh.
So, a lot of times, like the most obvious symptom
Yeah.
isn't necessarily the underlying cause.
Yeah, you got to get to the root of the problem.
Exactly. So like solely focusing on your app usage metrics, that might be like just treating the back pain
Oh, I see.
when the real issue is the heart problem.
Right.
So Theo is really saying you got to look at things holistically.
Yeah.
So like, look across your various
So
metrics.
like the app engagement, the ad performance.
Yeah, look at your app engagement, look at your ad performance
Mm-hmm.
to kind of like figure out what the real root cause is.
Mm-hmm.
And it might very well be that you're just attracting the wrong people.
You got the wrong audience.
Yeah. So the learner, like think about a time where you faced a challenge in your business.
Yeah.
Did you look at all the potential root causes?
Right.
Or did you just kind of jump to that most obvious one?
Yeah.
Okay, so now this is a part that I think is actually really empowering.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It's no code.
No code. Oh, yeah. I love this.
Yeah, yeah. Theo's a huge proponent of this,
Mm-hmm.
of using these platforms to quickly and affordably build things. So think like WordPress, Zapier, ActiveCampaign,
Mm-hmm.
Google Tag Manager, Looker Studio.
All these tools. Yeah.
Like he's saying you can build marketplaces.
Oh, wow.
Information products,
Mhm.
e-commerce sites.
You can do all this with no code.
Yeah, services, pretty much anything.
That's incredible.
And he's like, look, this dramatically reduces the time it takes to bring a product or service to market.
That's huge.
Yeah, and what I think is so interesting about this is the shift in ownership.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, look, when you're using no code,
Yeah.
you own the asset.
It's not the developers. It's you.
It's you, the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You're not relying on developers.
Right.
It just drastically reduces these bottlenecks and dependencies,
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
that could really slow you down.
Yeah.
And he gives this really great example, CrossJunkie.
Horse junkie. Okay.
It's this marketplace for marketing tools.
Okay.
And they have all these, curated collections. People like Neil Patel have collections on there.
Wow.
And this was largely built with no code.
That's incredible.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So you think about it, it's like a fully functional marketplace, tons of tools, curated lists, blog content, all done with like minimal reliance on software developers.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So the learner, like what aspects of your business could benefit from this?
Right.
From this kind of like agility and affordability of no code?
Yeah. Yeah. What could you build?
It's something to think about. Okay, so now he talks about the role of the growth hacker
Oh, yeah.
and how this is evolving. And he's basically saying that the traditional specialist,
Yeah.
like someone who has, really deep knowledge in a single area,
Right.
that's not really enough anymore.
You got to be more well-rounded.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
the future belongs to multi-specialists.
Multi-specialists. Okay.
Yeah, and this is people who have substantial knowledge in several domains,
Okay.
but they can also integrate those domains into a cohesive strategy.
Right. Not just a bunch of random knowledge. It's like actually applying it in a cohesive way.
Exactly. And they can communicate effectively across those specializations.
Yeah.
And this makes a ton of sense. I mean, the digital world is so interconnected now.
It's just the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he suggests that it's actually easier to train a marketer
Okay.
in technical skills
Than it is to make an engineer a marketer.
than to make an engineer a marketer.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of soft skills involved in marketing.
Right.
So understanding customer behavior
Right.
and crafting persuasive messages and all that.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying if you're a marketer, don't be afraid to get technical.
Right.
And if you're an engineer, maybe marketing isn't for you.
Maybe. Maybe not. Yeah.
Okay. So now he brings up this really interesting distinction between
Okay.
traditional digital marketing
Mm-hmm.
and growth marketing.
Okay. So what's the difference?
Yeah, so traditional digital marketing, it's primarily aimed at generating awareness,
Right.
but growth marketing,
Yeah.
it's much broader.
It's not just about getting the word out.
It's not just about getting the word out. It's about actually building sales,
Right.
developing products,
Okay.
and even like establishing entire businesses.
So it's like a bigger impact.
Yeah, it's a much bigger impact.
Mm.
So the learner, like think about your own skill set.
Right.
Where could broadening your expertise create new opportunities for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now let's talk about what Theo calls the obvious.
It's obvious. Okay.
Yeah, so these are the kind of fundamental steps
Yeah.
that a lot of people overlook.
Okay, and what are they?
They're obvious, but
Yeah.
we overlook them. And the first one is matching demand and supply.
Demand and supply. Okay.
Yeah, and he uses this great analogy.
Okay.
He's like, think about choosing a location for a physical store.
Oh.
So you wouldn't just pick a random spot.
Right.
Right.
You got to do your research.
You got to do your research. You got to look at foot traffic.
Yeah, look at the demographics.
Look at the demographics. Figure out, like, is this the right place for my business?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's the same for your online presence.
Oh, I see.
You have to base it on keyword research.
Oh, so you got to understand what people are actually searching for.
Exactly. You have to understand what people are searching for.
Mm-hmm.
So your websites,
Yeah.
your main website, your landing pages, whatever,
Right.
it should be designed to answer different types of queries.
Yeah.
So you have informational searches.
Right.
You have navigational searches.
Okay.
And you have commercial searches.
Oh, I see.
So don't just build a website based on like what looks cool or what you think would be cool.
Right. Don't go off of gut feeling.
No. Base it on data.
Data.
Base it on actual market demand.
Yeah.
And to really dominate that first page of Google,
Oh, yeah.
which, he kind of jokes it's like a wish from a genie if you could get on the first page of Google.
All right.
He's like, look, you need to have multiple web properties
Okay.
that are targeting related but non-competing keywords.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and he calls this micronopy.
Micronopia. Okay.
Yeah, and basically it's having, a full website,
Okay.
landing pages for specific campaigns.
Right.
Maybe you have interactive quizzes.
Oh.
Maybe you have a mobile app. Like all these different assets that are working together.
To capture different parts of the market.
Exactly.
Without competing with each other.
Without competing with each other. That's really important.
Right.
Okay, so the next obvious step
Okay.
is creating engagement points.
Engagement points. Okay.
Yeah. So he's like, look, you got to make it easy for people to interact with your properties.
Mm-hmm.
So, have clear contact forms.
Right.
Have options to schedule calls.
Okay.
Phone numbers clearly displayed.
Yeah.
Chat, email.
To make it easy.
Make it easy. Like all these different ways for people to engage.
Yeah.
And he actually points to
Oh.
the Growth Rocks website
Oh.
as an example
Yeah.
of how they've integrated these different engagement points
Yeah.
into their blog posts and contact pages.
Oh.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's all about like just removing that friction.
Right.
Making it as easy as possible for people to get in touch.
Yeah. If they're interested, give them a way to do it.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So now this is a huge one.
Okay.
It's the marketing funnel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a biggie.
This is really important. And he's like, look, customers rarely buy immediately.
Right. They need to be nurtured.
They need to be nurtured. You need to have a well-designed funnel
Okay.
that has multiple touch points.
So it's not just like one and done.
No, he actually recommends something like 5 to 13 interactions.
5 to 13. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, to nurture these leads and guide them through the buying journey.
Oh, so that's how you do it.
Yeah, and the reason is, he's like, look,
Mm-hmm.
only a very small percentage of your website visitors, like often around 3%,
3%. Wow.
are actually ready to buy when they first visit your site.
Right.
So think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who downloads like an ebook
Yeah.
versus someone who fills out a contact form,
Mm-hmm.
they're in different stages
They are. Yeah.
of that purchasing process.
Right. So you got to treat them differently.
Exactly. So a well-defined funnel allows you to cater to these different levels of readiness.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. The next one
Okay.
is segmentation and tagging.
Segmentation and tagging. Okay.
So he's saying, look, you got to properly categorize your users
Right.
based on their behavior.
Yeah.
So what are they doing on your website?
Right.
What kind of content are they interacting with?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you apply tags to these users.
Okay.
And this allows you to do some really cool things.
So what does it allow you to do?
It allows you to personalize your follow-up communication.
Oh.
And you can actually automate it.
Oh. Okay. So based on their behavior.
Yeah. So someone who's, super interested in B2B SaaS
Right.
is going to have very different needs and interests
Right.
than someone who's, browsing B2C e-commerce products.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last piece
Okay.
of this kind of foundational, obvious framework
Right.
is your follow-up strategy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and ideally you want to automate this as much as possible.
Right.
So based on how your users are segmented and tagged,
Mm-hmm.
you can set up automated processes
Okay.
that guide them through the funnel.
Yeah.
So they're getting timely information,
Right.
relevant offers that actually align with their interest.
And that are tailored to them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so before you even start doing all this stuff,
Right.
there's like a step 0.
Step 0. Okay.
This is the foundation.
Right.
It's understanding your numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Like really understanding them.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, you would be surprised
Mm-hmm.
how many businesses out there don't actually have a clear grasp
Oh, yeah.
of their most basic metrics.
Right.
So, for example, like your traffic to lead conversion rate,
Right.
a lot of businesses don't even really know that number.
Yeah.
So he's like, look,
Mm-hmm.
you need to segment your data
Okay.
in a way that reveals the why behind the what. So it's not enough to just know, oh, we generated X number of leads this month.
Right.
You got to know why.
You got to know why.
What's driving those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And he presents this scenario
Okay.
where 3 different businesses could have the exact same number of website impressions,
Okay.
but they have vastly different click-through rates
Yeah.
and conversion rates.
Right.
So it's really about understanding, like, what's happening.
The nuances.
Yeah, the nuances, yeah. And he actually describes this kind of progression
Okay.
that businesses go through when they start looking at their data.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of sad.
Okay.
So the first stage is this, like, overconfident claim
Well, yeah.
that they know their numbers.
Oh, yeah. We got this. We got this.
Yeah, we know our numbers.
Yeah.
But then that's quickly followed by a lot of frustration
Oh, yeah.
and even anger
I can imagine.
when they realize they actually don't know their numbers.
Yeah.
So then they move into this, like, negotiation phase
Okay.
where they're like, do we really have to start tracking all this?
This seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, it does seem like a lot of work.
Gosh.
And then, of course, comes the frustration
Yeah.
when they actually start doing the work
Right.
of setting up proper data collection.
Why are there so many things to track?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But finally, they reach this stage of acceptance
Okay.
and they actually start to understand their metrics.
So they finally get it.
Yeah, and he reminds us, the data we get from analytics platforms,
Right.
it's not always perfect.
Yeah.
There's often inconsistencies.
Yeah. You got to clean the data. You got to validate it.
Yeah, you got to clean the data. There's mixed readings. You got to fill in those missing pieces
Yeah.
before you can actually make decisions.
Right.
He also recommends conducting workshops
Oh.
to map out your funnel
Okay.
and understand those conversion rates at each stage.
Hmm.
Okay, so
So now we're going to get into growth modeling.
yeah, growth modeling. This is like the recipe
Oh, okay.
for success in growth hacking.
Okay. So what's the recipe?
All right, so the first component of this
Okay.
is what he calls the growth recipe.
The growth recipe. Okay.
Yeah, and he's like, look,
Mm-hmm.
it all starts with something that seems very simple,
Okay.
but it's actually super important.
Okay.
And that is agreeing on shared terminology.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to make sure that everybody in your team
Right.
and external partners, everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. We're speaking the same language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to define things like, what is a user acquisition?
Right.
What's an engagement point?
Okay.
What criteria does a user need to meet to be considered activated?
Right.
These things seem simple, but they can actually be interpreted in different ways.
Yeah.
He even uses the term CPA as an example.
Those were quick
Cost per acquisition.
Yeah.
It's like, look, you got to define what action qualifies as an acquisition.
Right.
What currency are you measuring this in?
Oh.
What's the attribution window?
Yeah. How long do we attribute a conversion back to that initial
Yeah, how long?
stretch point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even little things like time zones can mess things up if you're not careful.
Yeah. Those details matter.
So it's all about clarity.
Clarity.
Being crystal clear on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then he uses Amazon as a great example.
Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, of how to do this right.
Yeah.
So he breaks down their approach.
Okay.
And they have like these 6 key teams or pillars.
6 pillars.
Yeah, so the first one is vertical expansion,
Okay.
expanding into new product categories.
Makes sense.
The second one is seller acquisition,
Okay.
getting more sellers on their marketplace.
Right.
The third one is traffic generation,
Okay.
so driving traffic to those product listings.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's conversion to purchase,
Right.
getting people to actually buy those products.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's increasing cart size,
Okay.
so getting people to buy more stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's fostering repeat purchases.
So customer retention, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So each one of these has, a specific goal and a metric that they're trying to improve.
Right.
And he's like, look, the big takeaway here is
Okay.
don't just jump to tactics.
Right.
Don't be like, oh, I read this blog post, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
You got to figure out what your growth recipe is.
Yeah.
So figure out your business objectives.
Right.
What are the key elements?
Yeah.
And do workshops to really define these.
Right.
So, for example, like maybe you're focused on increasing traffic.
Yeah.
Or improving conversion rates. Whatever it is, define that recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And then that should dictate the metrics that you're tracking.
Right. It all flows from that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about the North Star metric.
The North Star metric. Okay.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah.
He's like, look,
Mm-hmm.
you got to identify the single most important metric
Okay.
for each pillar of your recipe.
For each pillar.
Yeah, for each pillar.
Yeah.
So, there might be supporting metrics that give you context,
Right.
but that North Star metric, that's what you're really focused on improving.
That's the one.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay.